Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
The golden howdah of the Maharajas of Mysore, resplendent symbol of another age, an age of myth, fantasy and legend, and out of the depths of our childhood fairy tales, those incredibly wonderful, magical places.
We are in Mysore, in the state of Karnataka. Once upon a time, Mysore was the capital of the great princely state of Mysore. The state and its capital sharing the same name. And every year, a glittering procession used to gallop down the broad streets, and fairy tales were recreated. Even though ours is not an age of fairy tales, much of the magic still lives on, if you know where to look for it.
One way is to get a deity's eye view of the city. Drive up to the 1,000-meter-high Chamundi Hill and pause near the huge monolithic black Nandi, the embodiment of royal strength. It's 5 meters high and 8 meters long. Mysore spreads far greener and better water than it seems from down below. It has a certain grand, regal look about it, as if the Wadiyar princes were conscious of their past when building for the future.
Or perhaps their belief in the powerful Chamunda Devi in her temple atop the hill gave them a confident sense of permanence. The warrior goddess has a bull, horse, elephant, and ram as her martial steeds. Mounted on one of them, she killed the massive Mahish Asura. The goddess continues to protect Mysore against the frivolities of time.
The Lalit Mahal Palace has certainly defied time. Once a royal residence, it is now an upmarket hotel run by the government. The Viceroy's suite is priced at 12,000 rupees, where you can, quite literally, live in regal splendor. In middle-level hotels, such rooms have a tariff of 1,800 rupees. There are also rooms like these, priced at 400 rupees double. You can get to Mysore by train. You can also take the Seymour route and hop a bus if you don't want to drive. The nearest airport at present is at Bangalore, 140 kilometers away.
Mysore's prime attraction is the palace. That's how it's referred to, the palace. Other palaces in Mysore have names. This one is called only the Mysore Palace, and rightly so. There is no palace in India, possibly in the world, to compare with this. It is the third palace to occupy this site. The first was struck by lightning, the second burnt down. This new palace, as it used to be called, was commissioned by the regent Maharani Vani Vilasa Sanidhana. It was made largely of local materials. And when you enter it, suspend belief, because you are entering through the magical doors of fantasy.
Here, where the glass dome has all the translucent delicacy of butterflies' wings, fairy tale weddings used to be held. This is the Kalyana Mandap, or marriage hall of the palace. The stained glass ceiling was designed by local artists, but it was manufactured in misty, distant Glasgow by Saracen foundry of Walter Macfarlane. The ceiling is supported by groups of triple cast iron pillars, and if you look carefully, everything here has a single theme. the radiant ceiling, the green pillars touched with brown, even the geometric tiles on the floors, all these have been inspired by the brilliant plumes of the peacock.
The Diwani khas repeats the peacock theme with overlapping scallops of glass replicating the iridescent eyes on a peacock's flared tail. The delicacy here, however, is also strengthened by heavier pillars and arches, as if to say, we have favoured you with a private audience, but please remember that in this hall the Maharaja of Mysore is paramount. In fairy tales, a king is still a king, even though he may be a friendly king.
Or the youngest princeling, painted by Ravi Varma, it hangs in the portrait gallery. This is a painting of the Maharaja's golden throne, and these his silver chairs. The portrait of the favourite elephant, Marthand, is framed in his own tusks.
When we entered the Diwani Ang, the hall of public audience, it struck us that this room could have been strongly influenced by the old wooden palace. The pillars resemble the trunks of massive trees. The arches above them and the entire colonnade gave us the impression that we had stepped into a huge and otherworldly plantation of enormous masonry trees. In the days of kingship, this hall used to be filled with specially invited guests during the Dasera festivities. The ladies of the court had box seats to ensure their privacy. Ministers and other courtiers sat in this elevated gallery. Celestial beings looked down from the ceiling. The ceremonial Dasera parade was held in the forecourt outside.
The golden elephant howdah is really a wooden howdah covered in gold plate. 80 kilograms of the precious yellow metal. If they had made the howdah of solid gold, they'd have needed a dinosaur to carry it. If you could train a dinosaur. If there were any dinosaurs around.
All these, however, were creations of the past, when kings were patrons and an artist could work on a masterpiece for a whole lifetime.
Today, however, the descendants of these ancient artisans have to depend on people like you and us. Here, traditional artists create affordable masterpieces in deep ruby rosewood, which grows well in the forests of Karnataka. They also use the fragrant sandalwood, another legendary hardwood from the state's elephant-haunted jungles. This furniture is made from coffee wood, the wood of old coffee bushes who have outlived their berry-bearing lives. All these are available for sale under one roof in the government emporium. They make excellent gifts and souvenirs to take back home.
And for those very special people, very special gifts of beautiful saris. Also colorful shirts and striking ties of famed Mysore silk. Traditionally, Mysore silk is woven on handlooms, but today, with the demand for this beautiful, soft fabric increasing, suppliers have now turned to machines to help them meet the demand. After the fabric has been woven, it is dyed in all the colors of the rainbow. Some, however, have delicate designs printed on them by the silk screen process.
You could, of course, go boating on the lake and find Mysore silks, but most people would probably prefer to be outdoorsy in something cooler.
No, this is not a city forest with free-roaming deer. It's a glimpse of Mysore's rather attractive zoo. Only a glimpse because we don't really like to see animals confined, even in the best zoos.
For people, however, Mysore is one of the least confined cities we know. Its broad, shaded avenues make it an ideal place for walking, but even a drive around will reveal many palaces and beautiful old buildings, some with a distinctive mid-European look. We almost expected to see spike-helmeted guards goose-stepping around like clockwork soldiers.
In marked contrast was the Gothic serenity of St. Philomena's Church. A plaque at its entrance says that the Maharaja laid the foundation stone of this soaring Christian shrine. In the crypt, there is a relic of Saint Philomena.
If, after all this activity, you feel hungry, try Mysore's very own delectable sweet, Mysore Pak. This one, made in pure ghee, will adequately fuel your excursions to the stronghold of the legendary 18th century warrior Tipu Sultan at Srirangapatna, 16 kilometers from Mysore.
Here, his summer palace still stands in a garden with a Mughal look. The summer palace is really a huge pavilion. It is surrounded by a deep veranda to trap shade and cool the hot winds of summer. On the walls of the palace are some excellent murals. This one shows a battle being fought between the troops of Tipu and the English. The English feared that Tipu's growing might would break their plans to monopolize the rich trade flowing in and out of India. Another wall depicts some of the contemporary rulers of his time. Many of them promised to support Tipu, but very few did.
In this island redoubt besieged by the growing strength of the English, Tipu might have held out indefinitely. Sadly, he was betrayed and this critical watergate was opened. The river Kaveri, which served as a natural moat for Sringapatna, was high and the English could easily bring their forces in silently. When Tipu learnt that his troops had been surprised by treachery, he rushed to their aid. At the inner wall of the watergate, he met the invading English troops and bore the full brunt of their onslaught. Tipu was slain and his body was found at this spot.
Some distance from the fort is this mausoleum. Tipu was buried here along with his father and Hyder Ali's wife Fatima.
Tipu's mechanical tiger found its way to England and became a prize exhibit in London's Victoria and Albert Museum. We asked ourselves what sort of man was this who amused himself with such a violent toy? A warrior, certainly, who was a formidable enemy. Also a builder with a developed sense of aesthetics. Then he was a man of far-sighted tolerance. Within the walls of the fort stand 2 temples. Tipu, reputedly, extended his patronage to them. This is the Sri Ranganatha temple. There is also a mosque in which this Muslim soldier is said to have prayed.
Today, attracted by the increasing numbers of visitors, little shops have sprung up in front of the Sri Ranganatha temple. Here stone carvers create their tap-tapping works of art for visitors to carry home.
The Kaveri, at its confluence with one of its tributaries, is a rather shallow, languid, reed-rustling river full of little green islets. The owners of coracles or basket boats spin tourists across the slow flow of the water for placid picnics on cool getaways. For a few idyllic hours, you're completely cut off from the rest of the world.
Determined picnickers can also head for Balamuri's Kshetra, scene of many of filmdom's song sequences. It's a truly rural setting, with a farmer carrying a bundle of grass, a bullock cart, and cool spectators. Also, if you get there in late spring or early summer, you might see these winged property developers, weaver birds.
If you're a dedicated bird watcher, however, spend the night in the state-run Riverside Hotel at Srirangapatna. Rooms here cost 400 rupees non-AC double. This hotel is a good introduction to the places we headed for next morning. We drove past lush, well-watered fields to the riverine bird sanctuary of Ranganathitu.
You can best see the birds here if you walk down to the landing and hire a boat with a boatman guide. Ranganathitu is really quite a small sanctuary, only 675 hectares, formed by the tiny wooded islands of the Kaveri and its forested banks. The air is full of quacks, chirps, gurgles, grunts, squawks, hoots and whistles as the birds go about the business of living and raising a family in green tenements. Like human beings, the birds seem to prefer to live in distinct, like-minded colonies, as these cormorants, painted storks, and open-billed storks do.
We were there in spring, and these open-billed storks were clearly celebrating St. Valentine's Day. Nests have to be built and inspected. Then the eggs are incubated. It can be quite trying to maintain a family. The competition can be quite fearsome, even among purple herons.
At this time of the year, everyone's dressed in glad rags. White ibis in feathery stoles, cattle egrets in gold, little egrets in downy dupattas. Spoonbills waited for dinner. So did this unperturbed crocodile. Happily, crocodiles can't fly.
Our thoughts, however, can fly. And they did. Like a white stork, they took wing across the sky. Far beyond this magical kingdom, a shade to the south and west, lay the jungles of wondrous Kabini.